Hello! In the last video, we talked about how coffee came into the hands of people and what contributed to that. We learned who opened the first coffee house and how coffee was consumed in Turkey. Today, we will explore how coffee houses developed further after Ethiopia, Arabia, and Constantinople. How coffee made its way into Russia, and why women in the seemingly developed world were still prohibited from visiting coffee houses. Cappuccino, latte, espresso. All these words are well known and come from the Italian language. But why did coffee gain such significance specifically in Italy? The answer is simple. It was at the turn of the 16th to 17th century. Venetian sailors who sailed to Constantinople, now Istanbul, brought coffee beans from abroad. By that time, coffee had already gained great popularity throughout the Ottoman Empire, from Turkey to Egypt. It was to Egypt that the Venetian botanist, Professor Prospero Alpini of the University of Padua, was drawn in those days. In his work, De Plantis Aegypti Liber, the first book on the plants of Egypt published in 1592, he mentioned coffee beans and analyzed the components of beverages made from them. For Venice, it was something extraordinary, unusual, and of course, by the law of irony, the people did not like it. A liquid as black as night and bitter like poison.
Who said?
The Venetians immediately dubbed coffee the drink of the devil, and the local priest decided to call upon Pope Clement VIII to have it banned. According to legend, Pope Clement VIII saw a cup of coffee and decided that before making a judgment, he would first taste this fearsome beverage himself. He took a sip and then said a phrase without which perhaps we would never have seen coffee, or at least not for a long time.
This devilish drink is so delicious. We must outsmart the devil and bless him.
And he blessed the coffee and crossed the beans away from sin. Bravo, Pope! The first coffee house in Venice opened in 1646. It was named Arab, reflecting the eastern origin of the beverage itself. The coffee house was located in St. Mark's Square, the most famous square in Venice. By that time, all of Europe had already become acquainted with cocoa brought by the Spaniards from America in the early 16th century. A little later, she learned about tea, but she still fell in love with coffee. In the Venetian coffee houses, which appeared at lightning speed after the Arabs, coffee was prepared almost the same way as in Constantinople. The difference was that the chesve was replaced with a coffee pot. Ground coffee was placed in a min or bronze coffee pot, water was added, and it was brought to a boil. After brewing, the drink was given time to let the sediment settle, and then it was ready. It could be poured into cups and enjoyed. Local residents gathered there to discuss political news, culture, and also to meet with business partners and friends. At that time, the ongoing wars of the Ottoman Empire against European countries finally began to cease, and life started to flourish again. The drink was taken away, and the Turk was driven out. What else is needed for happiness? Of course, for happiness, one needs a woman. Women were certainly not allowed in the coffee house, but unlike the rules of Islam, women in Venice were not permitted there because coffee was considered a drink of the devil. Moreover, the drink originated from the Islamic people, while in Venice, both then and now, Christianity is practiced. In general, if someone is to be poisoned, it should be the men. For the first time, women were allowed into the Alla Venezia Trionfante coffee house in the winter of 1720. It was opened by the then young Floriano Francescone. Indeed, the name Triumphant Venice did not catch on with the people, so they simply referred to the place as Florian. The decision to allow women into the coffee house was pivotal at that time, and Floriano had no shortage of guests. The interior of Floriano's establishment was not something provocative or flashy. It featured minimalist wooden tables and chairs, along with a few small sofas. Paintings and mirrors hung on the walls for ambiance, and in the center of the coffee house stood a bar counter. Over time, the interior changed, but the atmosphere retained its cozy and welcoming charm. This place became a true center of the social world. For the most part, people were interested not even in the drink itself, but in the social aspect of coffee. To come, discuss the latest news, or conversely, the past, and to gossip. With its wide popularity, Venice saw the coffee trade begin to seep into other countries in Europe. Let's take England as an example. This example is not random. Firstly, the coffee houses here were referred to not as houses, but as penny universities, although this was only in popular usage. The name originated from the fact that coffee in these places could be purchased for a single change coin valued at a penny. Secondly, it was here, in 1652, 6 years after the Venetian Arabs, that the first coffee house opened in London. At that time, the English already knew about coffee and considered the drink made from coffee beans to be a medicinal remedy that helped with intestinal diseases and hysteria. The first discoverer was Puscoa Rose, a member of the Greek community. It is not definitively known how it came to be that he was the owner. There are also records indicating that Rose was in the service of Daniel Edwards. Puscoa was his right-hand man and at times prepared coffee for him and his friend. At one point, there were so many guests at Edwards' place that it became necessary to open a coffee house. In fact, Daniel Edwards was not allowed to run a business. He could only engage in wholesale trade. Such rules were in place at the Levant Company, where he worked. Therefore, according to all the documents, the owner was Puscoa, while the business was forecasted by Daniel. Initially, the coffee house looked like a simple stall next to St. Michael's Church, with an awning and a sign depicting a merchant in Levantine clothing. The place was crowded. The English liked the new drink. They described it as something hot and unpleasant, but leaving a good feeling afterward. The drink was unprecedented. Not only was it cheap, but it was also non-alcoholic. The consumption of alcohol was frowned upon by the people at that time, which is why coffee houses became a sort of substitute for taverns. By 1663, 83 new coffee houses had opened throughout London. But the most interesting part came a little later. In 1686, entrepreneur Edward Lloyd opened his own coffee house, Lloyd's. The guest list of Lloyd was mostly filled with sailors, ship owners, and merchants. They came there to discuss work-related issues as well as insurance matters. Lloyd himself was eager to facilitate this. Ultimately, it was insurance that prompted Lloyd to create his own insurance market, which is known worldwide as Lloyd's of London. Soon, coffee culture spread to other countries in Europe. In France, the first coffee house appeared in 1672. By the way, it was opened by the Sicilian Francesco Procopio. And here, coffee gained great and rapid success. Coffee houses began to appear like mushrooms after rain all over Paris. Germany, the same story. 1675. The first coffee houses opened in Hamburg, Bremen, and Hanover, and by the early 17th century, there were already about a dozen coffee houses throughout Berlin. And then it reached Austria and Holland. But what was happening in our homeland? Here, for the first time, the father of Peter III, Alexei Mikhailovich, drank coffee. In the 17th century, doctors prescribed the consumption of exotic drinks to the Tsar as a remedy for headaches and other ailments. Indeed, there is another claim supported by the primary chronicle. It is said that the Prince of Kiev, Vladimir the Red Sun, drank a thick beverage called kawa. Legends are legends, but what about the fact? The main hipster of all Russia, Peter the Great, popularized coffee. During his time in Holland, he liked the drink so much that he naturally wanted to bring it back to his homeland. He brought it and ordered all the courtiers to drink coffee. They were to treat the guests with it. He even issued orders. And that's it. Coffee has been everywhere since then. Even prisoners in the cabinets of curiosities were offered a cup of coffee. By the grace of great sovereigns and the opening of the first coffee house. In 1720, the establishment of the 4th frigate opened its doors. It was located on Trinity Square. The coffee was brewed according to all the traditions of Constantinople. In a chesve, finely ground, black as night, the guests were treated to sweets, pastries, or fruits. Discussions in our establishments have not changed at all. Countries may change, but conversations about politics and art remain. Gradually, coffee spread throughout Russia. But as is known, success has another side. For representatives of the Orthodox Church, coffee once again became the drink of the devil. The rest of the people, who had already become accustomed to tea, reacted skeptically to this newfangled thing. They did not fall in love with the drink, mainly due to its stimulating effects, which were believed to have a negative impact on health. Nevertheless, this did not prevent coffee from reaching almost every home by the beginning of the 19th century. In the coffee houses of the 19th century, writers, artists, and other creative individuals gathered. For example, before his fatal duel, Mikhail Yuryevich Lermontov visited the Roshki Coffee House, which was located near Zheleznovodsk. To be honest, he loved this place even before the duel. Otherwise, he would have arranged a meeting with his seconds right there. In short, Over time, coffee became truly a popular drink. In the end, Russians came to love it for its accessibility and taste, and over time, the quality of the beans only improved. And of course, for its important role in the social life of the population. Meetings, public discussions, and simply leisure time were now spent over a cup of coffee. The second stage of the world's coffee history has been completed. The journey of the beverage was not easy, but despite all the rejections, coffee has still won the hearts of people around the world, and there is more to come. Next, coffee will visit America, its small homeland. It was in America that the coffee boom of the 19th and 20th centuries occurred, the first and second coffee waves. See you soon. For now.
Okay.